friends, welcome back. Today I am going to start the third module of this course, that is personality. A very interesting part we are going to discuss this time, and which is most intriguing and attractive topic that we can talk about in organizational behavior and in general psychology as well. When we talk about psychology to the other person, he is very much interested to know about himself, that please tell me about my personality. Now, these are the simple notions that we tend to hear when we talk about this discipline, psychology or organizational behavior. But the point is that to what extent we have scientific understanding of this term personality. When we talk about personality as a layman or in a very layman fashion, we say, oh, I am shy, he is very shy, he is very talkative, he is slow, he has a charming face, she is pretty, she has a smiling face. We will give these kind of notions to the other person when we talk about personality. But the point is that is it the only correct way to talk about personality? Actually not. When we talk about personality, it is actually a scientific term, and how psychologists have identified the interplay between the internal or psychic situation of an individual and its relation with the external environment. That amounts to personality. Another way to understand is, which is very much scientific in nature, is about the nature and nurture aspect. To what extent we take it from our genes, from our DNA, and how much we take it from the environment while responding or reacting to the environment. This tends to make personality as a composite whole, a systematic whole of a person. So, let us define in a very scientific manner that what is personality. So, when we talk about personality, we do not mean a person has a charm, a positive attitude towards life or a constantly smiling face. Rather, psychologists mean a dynamic concept describing the growth and development of a person's whole psychological system, as I mentioned just now. What are the factors that makes a person complete, one complete individual? Why? Because those concepts or aspects are very much consistent and very much distinctive in nature. Consistent that every time the person will respond to the situation in a similar manner, and the behavioral traits or the traits he has or he exhibits, that makes him different from the other person. What I am speaking, what I am saying, the way I am saying, I am distinct from the audiences or vice versa. Even anyone from the audience is also different and consistent in its own way in comparison to other audiences. That makes an individual's personality. Thus, understanding personality is not just an academic exercise, but it is a key to unlocking many life and work outcomes, because the person is interacting. There is interplay of different kind of forces between an individual and the environment. I am in a stressful situation, I have my own pattern to respond to stress or handle the stress. I am in a social situation, I have my own social ability to interact with people. Now, when all these forces are overlapping and existing in an individual's life, that amounts to one common score of individual personality. That is we are going to talk about. So, defining personality is very important, just having a layman understanding of this term. So, personality is the relatively stable set of psychological attributes that distinguish one person from another. As I mentioned, I have my own consistent way to deal with the stress, and that style, the way of dealing with the stress is so different and consistent that I can easily differentiate myself from the other people the way they are dealing with the stress. That is my personality. The other definition can be that personality can be defined as the enduring characteristics that describe an individual's behavior. Now, here enduring characteristics means that one has its own constant way, consistent and constant way to understand oneself. I panic in stressful situation. Whenever the person will experience any stress, he will start panicking. This is his enduring characteristics. Maybe another person is experiencing the same stressful situation, he is very calm and composed. So, this is his enduring characteristics, that no matter whatever is the situation, he will maintain his composure. This is his enduring characteristic. So, this makes two people different in the same situation. So, this is personality. Therefore, it is a sum of ways in which an individual reacts to and interacts with others. According to Allport, Allport is one of the finest psychologists we have, and he was the first person to define personality and has defined personality as a dynamic organization within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine his unique adjustments to his environment. Now, here the psychophysical system means two systems, one internal psychic environment and the other is the external physical world. When they are interacting with each other, that defines an individual's way to adjust with the environment, and after the adjustment how the person will evolve, that makes his personality. So, it is a dynamic organization of the psychic abilities or the psychic environment or the insidious environment and the external world within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine his unique adjustment to his environment. Now, adjustment is not only to the environment, it is also within the individual. The way we are interpreting the situation, we are using our own psychic powers, we are using our own understanding of the situation and how we are also adjusting with ourselves in relation to that situation and then dealing with the external situation. That is the dynamic organization and that defines an individual's personality. Now, when we are talking about personality, just talking about definition will not suffice. If you just talk about people in general about psychology, they also say please try to assess my personality. A very layman understanding, please assess my personality. Again, it is actually a scientific way to understand that how to assess personality. Coming to this point of discussion, personality assessment entails certain tools, tests, questionnaires and some simulation tests or situations where people tend to encounter or they are being exposed to different kind of situations based on questions and how they respond to a degree of response, and then based on the scores we tend to categorize people based on different kind of personalities. For example, introvert, extrovert or ambivert, mix of introvert and extrovert, ambivert, or it can be about extrovert, it can be about type A, type B, it can be about neuroticism, it can be about anxiety, there can be different patterns of personality that we can assess. In fact, this is such an important topic to be discussed that even companies currently they tend to undergo personality assessments of different employees and especially while hiring new entrants or employees. Companies like Cognizant, Ford Motors, Tata Motors, TVS, Sundaram and Deloitte, they use psychometric assessments for recruitment and competency mapping. Competency mapping means finding the best person job fit, that which kind of personality is fit for which kind of job profile. Then only that job can be performed well or the target can be achieved. For instance, any extrovert is well fitted for a sales executive job. He can approach to the customers, he can interact with the customers to a length, can convince the customer to buy the product, whereas an introvert can be more fit for any desk job, for instance any finance job. This helps in assessment of personalities and then finding the best person job fit, right. Therefore, personality tests are useful in hiring decisions and help managers forecast who is best for a job. Okay. Now, how personality is determined? It is not that we have a litmus test, we put it on the forehead and we tend to understand that okay, this is the personality. Even if we find out the personality, what can be the factors, determining factors that define an individual's personality? There has to be some factors. Even we are talking about psychophysical systems, what are those factors that determine this personality? So, social psychologists have talked about some determinants which are very much prevailing in everybody's personality, and these two determinants are nature versus nurture. The long lasting debate among psychologists, often expressed as nature versus nurture, concerns the extent to which personality attributes are inherited from parents, that is nature, or shaped by environment, that is the nurture. But the point is both the determinants play a very important role in shaping up the personality of an individual. So, when we talk about nature, then heredity plays very important role to shape up an individual's personality, and the other is environment. What are the norms, values, cultural aspects that are so much evident in an individual's behavior that again they shape up the individual personality. So, let us talk about heredity. Heredity about nature. It is about chromosomes. It is about the biological composition which we inherit from our parents or from our past generations, and how those chromosomes are being transferred from one generation to another and we get influenced. So, heredity refers to factors determined at the time of conception of a child. This includes physical stature, facial attractiveness, gender, temperament, muscle compositions, energy levels and reflexes and biological rhythm are generally considered to be either completely or substantially influenced by our parents, that is by the biological, physiological and inherited psychological makeup. We have so many habits that are very much similar or resembling to our parents. Maybe some food taste will be very similar. I like sweets and my father also likes sweets. I like more preference for black color clothes. My mother also prefer to wear black clothes. This comes in heredity or in nature. This is heredity, the influence of the chromosomes that are being transferred. Now, this similarity can be at any form, even in the temperament. One, the child is hot tempered because of his mother or father or maybe any other family member who is staying there. So, these kind of factors will determine personality based on heredity. So, the heredity approach argues that the ultimate explanation of an individual's personality is the molecular structure of the genes located in the chromosomes. This is so biological in nature and it is very amazing to understand. Rather, we find it very difficult to understand that how chromosomes are being transferred from one generation to another just to influence personality, and how we tend to take forward those influences to the next generation. This is the role of heredity. Early work on the structure of personality attempted to identify and label enduring characteristics that describe an individual's behavior, including shy, aggressive, submissive, lazy, ambitious, loyal and timid. And when someone exhibits these characteristics in a large number of situations, we call them personality traits of that person. So, this was the initial classification of personality, that how an individual was classified as a shy person, aggressive person, submissive person, lazy or ambitious. But with the gradual developments in understanding or developing personality theories, many theories came up and they shaped the overall understanding of this term personality. The more consistent the characteristics over time, the more frequently it occurs in diverse situations and we call them personality traits. Traits here means that they are very much permanent, they become permanent in nature, they become very much consistent and distinctive in nature. How you are responding, you have a consistent way to respond to one situation and that makes you different. So, this is personality trait. The other is environment. Among the factors that exert pressure on our personality formation are the culture in which we are raised, our early conditioning, the norms among our family, friends, social life or social groups, all influence our experiences. These environmental factors play a substantial role in shaping personalities. For example, culture establishes the norms of right and wrong. Every person based on the culture norms will respond in a very consistent manner that this behavior is acceptable, this behavior is not acceptable based on the culture. So, this becomes a personality of an individual, we can relate it to the cultural backgrounds of an individual. This is the role of environment in shaping human personality. Now, these can be attitudes and values that are passed along from one generation to the next and create consistencies over time. So, this is how heredity and environment play a very important role in shaping up human personality, where environment will change more rapidly than heredity, but still every now and then every individual is coming into force to make adjustment with the environment and come up with a new behavioral pattern. Thus, careful understanding of the arguments favoring either heredity or environment as the primary determinant of personality forces the conclusion that both are important. Heredity sets the parameters or outer limits, but an individual's full potential will be determined by how well an individual adjusts to the demands and requirements of the environment. As I mentioned, that heredity will be existing, but situation will change every now and then, and how the person is adjusting to the environment, that will define or shape up the personality of an individual. All right. Next comes personality frameworks. This is very important, another discussion when we talk about personality in terms of assessment. We have different frameworks where we can fit an individual into one different kind of personality frame. There is a screen and there is a framework. We screen our behavioral patterns and ultimately a framework or boundary is given. That boundary is actually the shape of the personality of an individual, which is very much scientific in understanding. So, understanding theoretical frameworks and assessment tools helps us categorize and study the dimensions of personality. So, these personality frameworks can be defined based on certain tools. The most important widely used tools are or frameworks, they are Myers-Briggs type indicators, MBTI, and the Big 5 personality model, or others are the dark triad. These are the most common and widely known and used frameworks to define personality or categorize people in the different categories of personality. The first is the Myers-Briggs type indicator, also known as MBTI. This is one of the foremost and most popular, widely known and used framework to assess personality. This was constructed by Catherine Cook Briggs and her daughter Isabel Briggs Myers. They were influenced by the theory of Carl Jung and how they have used MBTI to understand or make personality assessment based on a set of 100 questions. It is a tool, it is a questionnaire, and how the participant responds to those 100 questions and categorize every behavior in different categories. So, these personality tests ask people how they usually feel or act in particular situation. There are small items in form of questions, 100 items, and every individual will respond to those 100 items. The respondents are classified as into 4 categories. The first is extroverted or introverted, sensing or intuitive, thinking or feeling, and judging or perceiving. These are the 4 combinations, major combinations. Now, when every combination is being identified for one particular, maybe we will get 16 combinations of out of all these 4 major categories. For instance, so let us first define and understand what these major categories talks about. Who are extroverted and introverted? Extroverted individuals are outgoing, sociable and assertive, whereas introverts are quite shy and they are slow moving as well. These are the characteristics of extroverted and introverted. The other is sensing versus intuitive. Sensing people are practical and prefer routine and order, whereas intuitive people are more relying on unconscious process and look at the bigger picture, because they have their own understanding of the environment, what can be, and they look at the bigger picture. Thinking and feeling. Thinking types use reason and logic to deal with their problems, whereas feeling type people rely on their personal values and emotions. They will deal with the situation emotionally, whereas thinking person will use all the logics and reasoning that what happened, why it happened, and why it should not happen, and how it should be handled. And the last is judging versus perceiving. Judging person want to control and prefer their world to be ordered, whereas perceiving types are flexible and spontaneous. They will look into the situation and come up spontaneously with some solution, whereas judging person will try to understand the every information that is available, structure the whole information and then come to the conclusion. So, these classifications together describe 16 personality traits. Why? Because there can be 16 permutations or combinations of all these types, then one can have. It is not that only one person is extroverted, no. A person can be a combination of extroverted, sensing, feeling and perceiving as per the responses on the 100 set of questions. So, there can be 16 personality traits out of these 4 categories, and how people can define themselves. It is like that. ISTG, it is introverted, sensing, thinking and judging. Again ISTP, introverted, sensing, thinking and perceiving. Then ISFJ, introverted, sensing, feeling and judging. Based on this, every trait has its own characteristics and the person comes into one sum. So, the person who is identified himself as ISTJ, then the person is reserved and practical and they tend to be loyal, orderly and traditional. So, that is why personality is very varied also, but yes, the person will try to exhibit or maintain consistency by being on this line only of being ISTJ. Or if we take the last example, INTP, introverted, intuitive, thinking and perceiving. They are quiet and introverted, they are known for having a rich inner world. Now, person will maintain consistency on these traits only, and that define them as this kind of personality, that is INTP, the thinker. These are the notions that has been given to these 16 combinations. For example, ISTJ is labeled as the inspector, the crafter, the protector, the artist, the advocate, the mediator, the architect, the thinker, the persuader, the director, the performer, the caregiver, the champion, the giver, the debater, the commander. So, we can say that MBTI can be a valuable tool for increasing self-awareness and providing career guidance. They can be also be used for improving communication, leadership, decision making, change management, stress management, team development, coaching and career development. Now, in all these aspects, when it is about communication, any person who is introverted can be highlighted about this trait and how the person can make efforts to become more extroverted. Decision making, how decision making can be enhanced based on his existing personality traits that help him to take decision as per his own personality or modify. It can be change management, when organizations are going through major changes, how personality has to be modified to accept that change. Stress management, how to deal with the stress, what kind of personality is more inclined towards which kind of strategy to overcome any stress. Team development, which kind of personality is more applicable or suitable for one particular team development and who will be the leader. Coaching and career development. Coaching here means mentoring, learning new things and how people tend to adjust their personality as per their job or career development, as per their personality which career will be most suitable to them. So, this is one of the most popular and widely used tool, and how it has been used by organizations including Apple Computer, AT&T, Citigroup, GE, 3M Company and many hospitals and education institutes, even by the US Armed Force. This is just a demo of how this report is being generated by using MBTI. This is an interpreted report for organizations that how employees are being categorized. For instance, the report has been generated based on the personality type, as we can see here, your snapshot, your work style, your preference at work, your communication style, your unique preference pattern, your problem solving approach and how you have to go through different changes. So, once those set of 100 questions are being responded by the participant, this report is being generated on various aspects. When this report is generated, maybe any participant can fall into this category of ESTJ. For instance, here it is written, if you can read it, your reported Myers-Briggs personality type is ESTJ, that is extroversion, sensing, thinking and judging. This is how the report is generated. Now, being on this, the results are described in detail. Here extraversion, sensing, thinking and judging. So, the person has scored high on these personality traits and lower on these aspects, that is introversion, intuition, feeling and perceiving. Now, based on this we can easily identify any employee that he has this consistency of these responses and he falls into this category and where he can be best suitable or fitted for a particular task. So, this is how. So, now ESTG snapshot will be that he is more decisive. This is the snapshot, how it is being analyzed and how the personality has come to an conclusion, the summation of his traits: decisive, direct, efficient, gregarious, logical, objective, organized, practical, responsible, structured, systematic and task focused. An individual's report is being generated when we use MBTI in a very scientific manner. Now, once this report is generated, even what an individual will perform based on these traits, that is also being interpreted. For example, your work style, what you contribute at work, you are likely to see, point out and correct flaws in advance. That is your personality who is falling under this category of ESTJ. The critic programs in a logical, objective way, organize the process, product and people to achieve goals, monitor to determine that the job is done correctly and follow through in a step by step way. At the same time, how you lead, when leading others, you make an impact by. That means, what is the impact of this category, that is ESTJ, how this personality trait is impacting the other person as well. Seeking leadership directly and taking charge quickly, applying and adapting past experiences to solve problems, getting to the core of the situation crisply and directly, deciding and implementing quickly. So, this is how people perceive you based on this personality, and acting as a traditional leader who respects the hierarchy, achieving within the system. And where your ideal workplace is, that is you thrive in work settings that where you fit into. Contain hardworking people determined to get the job done properly, are task oriented and committed, offer organization and structure, have team projects, provide stability and predictability, focus on efficiency and productivity and rewarding goals. That is how this category has been interpreted in such elaborative manner. Moreover, this report will also generate that what are the pitfalls, that is taking note when you find yourself. Deciding too quickly and pressurizing others to do so too. This is a pitfall of this category, that you tend to force other people to make quick decisions. Ignoring the need for changing things that you believe are already working. This is another pitfall of this, and how you have to improve on these notions. Overlooking the interpersonal niceties in getting the job done, and being overtaken by your emotions when you ignore your own feelings and values for too long. Now, another is, if an individual is falling into this category of ESTJ, then what are the boosters, what are the positive aspects? As an employee, you consider all sides before deciding, including factoring in the human element. Prod yourself to look at the benefits of what others want to change. That means, you are taking the other person's perspective as well. Make a special effort to show appreciation to others and take time away from work to reflect on, identify your feelings and values. So, these are the different snapshots once you fall into this category, how it can be decoded from different perspective. So, your preferences at work based on this ESTJ. If you are extroversion, what do you prefer? That is, you are likely to enjoy participating actively in a variety of tasks, become impatient with long slow jobs or welcome disruptions when working on a task. It is about sensing then what exactly you like to do. Use experiences and standard ways to solve problems or prefer to do things you view as practical. Thinking, use logical analysis to reach conclusion when you are having these traits. You upset people inadvertently by looking their emotions. You look at the principles involved in the situation, and judging, work best when you can plan your work and work your plan. You enjoy organizing and finishing tasks. You decide quickly in your desire for closure or seek structure and schedules. These are the different aspects like we discussed. the communication style of ESTJ. They have decoded the communication style based on these personality traits, the unique preference patterns. So, this is something that gives you a holistic approach to understand oneself and others, and how it helps in different aspects like change management, team development, personal development, stress management. For example, problem solving approach of any ESTJ category, how they tend to solve their problems based on these personality traits. This is another. And what are the next steps in terms of that identify the strengths and weaknesses and work on those strengths and weaknesses through coaching, mentoring, different type of training programs or change or modification programs to fit into better personality traits. This is how MBTI plays a very important role when it comes to personality assessment. So, this was about MBTI, the Myers-Briggs type indicator. Next is the Big 5 personality model. The Big 5 personality model, also known as the 5-factor model of personality or ocean model. It is a personality assessment model that taps 5 basic dimensions. And what are those dimensions? So, getting into those dimensions, we will take 1 minute to explain that what is the base of this theory or this framework. This framework is based on the psychological trait theory. Here, psychological trait theory states that when an individual responds to any situation in a consistent manner and in a distinctive way, that consistency and distinctiveness in an individual's behavior becomes a trait. That is a basic premise of psychological trait theory, and based on this theory, 5 dimensions have been identified. They are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness and neuroticism. So, this is the initials of every personality dimension ocean, OCEAN. Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness and neuroticism. These traits are believed to be relatively stable throughout an individual's lifetime, and this encompasses most of the significant variations in human personality. This is something I have just given a brief idea about the 5 personality model. Rest I will continue in the next discussion. Thank you so much.